Welcome to this brief webinar on imposter syndrome. In the first part of this session, we're going to look at the definition of imposter syndrome and how it impacts on both our well-being and our professional life. We will then cover some strategies we can adopt in order to manage the impact of feeling like an imposter and improve our psychological well-being. We will start by referring to the research carried out back in the late 1970s by two American psychologists, Clance and Imes. These are some of the key points highlighted from their research. A feeling that other people have an inflated perception of our abilities, a fear that our true abilities will be found out, a persistent tendency to attribute our successes to external factors. From a psychological perspective, we could say it is the feeling of disharmony between our projected image and how we perceive ourselves. Imposter syndrome refers to an internal experience of believing that we are not as competent as others perceive us to be. Although the term imposter syndrome is widely used, we could argue that because it isn't a recognized disorder or a mental health condition, perhaps the term phenomenon might be more accurate. People experience the phenomenon of being an imposter and the thoughts and feelings evoked by this experience. Let's look first at the thoughts and feelings we might experience if we feel like an imposter. We might doubt ourselves, not occasionally but persistently. We might engage in repetitive negative self-talk. We might be worried about being exposed, others finding out we're not as clever, as competent as they thought. We might be excessively worried about doing something wrong, as that might lead to us being found out. To summarize, we can say that we might experience an overall feeling of not being good enough. If we look now at the behaviors that could indicate we feel like an imposter, we might overwork and overprepare as we feel we have to overcompensate the fact that we don't believe we're good enough. We might recognize perfectionist traits in ourselves, thinking every task must be done to perfection in order not to be found out. We might struggle to be productive because of the pressure we put on ourselves. We might disregard praise and attribute our success to external factors or luck. And finally, we might hold back, not speak up, again for fear of saying something wrong and others finding out we're not as good as they thought, that we are a fraud. Just a couple of additional points on imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is often associated with the high achievers and academia. When surrounded by other higher achievers, competition can feel very strong. We might experience feeling like an imposter at times of changes, like starting university or a new job, or moving into a new environment. The original research on imposter syndrome back in the 1970s focused on women in male-dominated environments, but we have seen that anybody at some point in their lives can experience this phenomenon. A couple of quotes from two individuals who have been widely recognized for their achievements and success. Albert Einstein referred to himself as being a swindler, someone who used deception to achieve. He said, "The exaggerated esteem in which my life work is held makes me very ill at ease. I feel compelled to think of myself as an involuntary swindler." And Maya Angelou felt she had run a game on everybody, again implying feeling she had deceived people despite her numerous books and prizes. I have written 11 books, but each time I think, oh, they're going to find out now I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out. It's like individuals feeling like an imposter can't internalize their experiences of success despite the evidence. Why feeling like an imposter is an issue? Let's have a look at how it impacts on our well-being and professional life. Some level of anxiety about our academic work or other tasks is common, is normal. But if we live with the fear of being found out because we truly believe we are a fraud, then we might experience high levels of anxiety. Doubting ourselves, our abilities, and isolating ourselves from others might make us feel low, depressed. We know the stress from overworking can impact our physical health. Prolonged exposure to stress without support can lead to physical health issues such as heart and digestive problems, muscular pains, migraines, high blood pressure. And what about our professional life and career? If we believe we are not good enough, we might miss opportunities like applying for a scholarship or for a placement or for a job. We've now covered the concept of imposter syndrome, how it manifests itself, and how it impacts on our well-being and career. We now look at some strategies which can help us manage the impact of the imposter syndrome or phenomenon. We will look at 3 different sets of strategies: how we can become more open about it, how we can challenge our unhelpful thoughts and comparison to others, and how we can boost our confidence. Why it can be helpful to talk about imposter syndrome? Firstly, we know that opening up about our thoughts and feelings can help us feel better and get a sense of relief. But also, if we remind ourselves that imposter syndrome thrives in isolation, we can see how talking can help others too, because they might be experiencing similar thoughts and feelings as we do. We can challenge our fear of exposing our doubts and uncertainties and ask others for help, for example. It might be helpful not to expect to know everything all the time. Talking to peers and colleagues can be enough for many if we feel we have trusted people we can open up to. In some cases, it might be more helpful to seek professional help, like for example, speak to a counselor. The second set of strategies are about challenging our unhelpful thoughts, the thoughts which can hinder us. Like for example, I don't deserve to be here. We could challenge our thoughts and ask ourselves, where is the evidence? It's also helpful to notice possible inaccurate comparisons to others, perhaps pay more attention to what someone is saying and resist comparing their work, their marks, their promotion to us. A very helpful self-help resource to help us challenge our thoughts is Silver Cloud. Silver Cloud is available to all Durham students and staff, and it can be accessed from the Health and Wellbeing Hub webpage. Programs include Space from Stress, Space for Resilience, and Space from Anxiety. The third set of strategies focus on acknowledging our achievement and successes. Imposters can find it difficult to objectively recognize and own their achievement. We often disregard praise or forget our past successes. It might be helpful to have a sort of self-inventory, a tool we can go back to at times when we have doubts. It's about reminding ourselves of all the exams we've passed and all the feedback we have been given, for example.